scrapping the details, and I wanted to come on here really quickly with the project share of a Valentine banner that I created last year. I am in the middle of picking out paper and embellishments for a new 2017 Valentine banner. So I came across this and I thought, let me go ahead and share this with you. And to make sure that I don't duplicate some of the same elements that I created last year, because I tend to do that. But I really love this banner. It does say Be Mine, and it uses an older collection by Crate Paper, maybe 2 years ago. But to be honest with you, I have a lot of this paper still left in my stash. So I'll probably sneak in 1 or 2 patterns in my new banner that I create. So let me go ahead and just show you the banner, some of the panels up close, and give you a few details on each of them. So the first one is the letter B, and I do a lot of layering, whether I make a scrapbook page, a card, or a banner. I love layering. So here you'll see the cardstock, some pattern paper, some vellum here that is also embossed. And that's another technique that I use throughout many of my paper projects is embossing, because it just adds that quick texture, that quick dimension to any project. So you'll see that throughout. Here is a white piece of cardstock that's also embossed and stamped. Here, this uses the Swiss Dots embossing folder, and I'm sure you probably have it. It's a staple in my scrapbook stash, and I love using this and pulling it out, and it's always pretty much one of the first ones that I do pull out. The letter B is also embossed with a heart embossing folder. Here I adhered a white circle that's also embossed again with that Swiss Dots folder. Laid that on top of the B with a pop dot, and then finished it off with a white glitter, and then a white glitter star. And then here's a smaller one right at the top. And then tied some red gingham around the letter B. And along the bottom, I punched out another heart die out of white glitter. And then here, this vellum strip, I believe I actually just pulled it off of an embellishment from this collection. So this is the letter B, and I really like all the layers on this panel. And then here is the letter E. Now, this is pretty simple here. I did use a big white scallop circle, and behind it, I layered some heart pattern paper. And then on top of the E, again, a white piece of vellum that is, I believe this punch is by Martha Stewart. It is one of my favorites, and I think I mentioned it before in another one of my videos. It's just one of my staple punches, and I go to it time and time again throughout many of my projects. And then right along the bottom, I just layered some pattern paper, cut out a pre-cut label here, finished it off with a white doily, and I believe the other side is actually blue, and I just turned it over because it didn't match the paper. And then there I used the paper rosette die from Tim Holtz. I love this, and you've seen this probably throughout many of my projects. Again, it's just a staple, and of course it makes a banner complete because it's just a festive element. And then finished it off in the middle with a white glittered heart. And then in between the B and the mine, I did include a panel here just to separate the two words. And then throughout, you may have noticed that there's a few cards that I just cut and just, punched at the top, and then also just kind of strung it throughout just to give it some more dimension and just interest to the banner as it is hanging up on your mantle or at your table. So here, this middle panel is simply it's kind of like a card almost. And in fact, I think I did create a card similar to this, and I just thought, you know what, this will be perfect for the middle. So it's cardstock, it's pattern paper, it's a white doily. I love these white doilies, and this one's from SRM Stickers, and a red scallop circle. Again, another layer is this white vellum heart, again embossed with the Swiss Dots, and then a polka dotted heart that sits right on top of a gold arrow that I did obviously cut out of glitter. And then I just wrapped around some red sheer ribbon just to kind of finish that off. And then to add more texture and another layer, I used this card that says Be My Valentine, and it's also embossed as well. And I believe these are from Jelly Bean Soup, and I have so many of these on hand. So they'll sneak in on my new banner. So I'll need to pull those out tonight. Okay, and for the letter M, here I layered a big white heart doily on top of some text pattern paper, and then another layer of a white scallop heart, and then on top of that, another smaller white doily, and then the letter sits right on the doily heart. And I believe also while I'm here that this font is from the Cricut Cartridge Call Storybook, is what I use throughout my banner. And then I layered another gold arrow, and then this Cupid die cut that I had in my stash. So I cut him out of white glitter paper, and I really like this die. And then of course, love Melissa Francis Party Trim. Use that just to in between the M and then my border here. I love this. I need to get more of it. I can't seem to find it now, so I'm on the hunt for that because I probably want to use that on my new banner. And then here's another one of those Jelly Bean Soup cards. This one says Smooch. And again, I've embossed it with the XOXO embossing folder. Finish it off with a white gold glitter arrow. And then in the corner, just two white hearts out of white glitter cardstock. And for the eye, I probably should have taken this apart, but I didn't think about that. But anyway, okay, so for the eye here, I just layered some cardstock, more of that text paper, and then on top of the text paper is this white circle out of vellum, again embossed, and then the letter sits on top of that. And then I just finished off with a cluster of the rosettes by Tim Holtz again. And I see here that this is missing a heart because I do things in threes. So there's obviously two pink hearts here, so there's probably a bigger one here. So I'll need to ensure that I die cut another one and add that here. And then just finished it off with a little word sticker that says Kisses. And then here's the N. And again, another large white heart doily, another heart die, that scallop, again cut out of vellum, and then a big white cardstock glitter heart, and the end sits right on that. That's also embossed. And I just layered 4 little hearts here, and then the sticker where this says My Valentine. And then right along the bottom, I just die cut the numbers 1-4 for Valentine's Day. And then I have this stamp in my stash, and it simply says, Love is all you need. So I really like the way this turned out. And then finally is the letter E. So this is really simple, basic cardstock, some pattern paper, again, the large white glittered scallop circle that the E sits on top of, and then just a layer of vellum here that I stapled along the edges just to add another layering. And then right along the bottom is just the letters XOXO. And that is the banner that I created. I had so much fun making this, and I actually taught this as a class last year. It was very well received, and I was very thankful for that. I just love creating banners, and I can't wait to finish the one that I'm about to begin. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that your week is going great so far, and I hope that you find some time to be creative.